and welcome to the ThinkMHK podcast presented by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. On this podcast, you will hear about a variety of local matters pertaining to the business community. You also hear from local business owners to hear their story and gain valuable business insights. Thanks for tuning in today. My co-host for this segment is Charla Meisenheimer. Hey, Charla.
Hey, Jason.
How are you today?
I am great.
That is great. We have a wonderful guest with us for this segment, Tara Grubb, who is the chair of HYPE. And, of course, HYPE is our Young Professionals program. And Tara has been in that role for a number of years, about to end her term, her term that seemed like went for maybe a millennial. But, Tara, welcome to the show. We appreciate you having you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So talk a little bit about your history in Manhattan and maybe tell a little bit about your business and what do you do when you're not doing HYPE.
So I moved to Manhattan late fall of 2011. I actually came here to be the multiple roles at the Hilton Garden Inn and Manhattan Conference Center when they opened the doors. Just a dirt floor, and I had an office over at the Fairfield. So saw it all come to life and worked there for about 3 years, and then decided to start a family here in the Manhattan area with my husband. And so we've been here, like I said, ever since 2011, and now currently I work for Complete Weddings Plus Events, which is a photography, video, coordination, DJ, photo booth, and lighting company. And my roles there are marketing, sales, and lead coordinator.
Awesome. So where are you from originally?
Originally from Topeka, but spent a good chunk of some time out in Ellsworth, Kansas.
Okay, so you're a Kansan.
I am, yeah.
All right. So you're here today to talk about HYPE. Tell us exactly what HYPE is.
Yeah, so HYPE, as you kind of mentioned, is the Manhattan Young Professionals Group. HYPE itself stands for Helping Young Professionals Emerge. That was kind of a new thing that we went into just recently and been a part of that organization pretty much since I moved here in 2011.
So since you have been here, been with the organization since you've been here, talk about how it got its start and what role the chamber had in that.
Yeah, so it actually started several years before I came on. 2005, I believe, there was just basically a trend across the nation of bringing the young professionals of the world, I guess you want to say, together in a different facet than a typical chamber setting. And so I would say, just all over, there was a need for that so that young professionals could voice their opinions of what they wanted to see in the community, have a network of people to connect with that were around their same age group, in their same life status and business status. And so it's definitely been a great asset, I think, to the chamber.
Talk about the rebrand to HYPE. What brought that on? What was that like?
We started the rebrand. I feel like we kind of started talking about it maybe the end of 19, but 2020 is kind of where we launched everything. We actually launched it at the annual meeting. And then, as all of you know, the world came to a slanting halt in 2020, that March. And so the rebrand was basically a way to re-engage the community. The organization had been around for so many years, and we were starting to see a trend of people not participating as much as they used to. We were getting feedback that they wanted to see something different from the organization. And so we brought a group of people together that had opinions, that were people that were involved in the Young Professionals group, people that weren't involved in it, and coming together to try to figure out how can we reconnect the young people of Manhattan and where should we start. And one thing that came out of that was really that getting those K-State students towards the end of their college career and really get them engulfed in what the community has for them so that hopefully they would want to stay here. And as those talks came about, and as we did tons of surveys to try to figure out what do people want to see out of the Young Professionals group, we found that there was a need for more types of programming. And so within that, we built a committee rather than basically myself and Dina with the chamber doing most of everything the last couple of years. We built a committee that would hopefully allow us to branch out and provide more programming that would reach more people in both business and professional lives.
So let's go back to that launch for just a minute. It was at the Chamber's annual meeting in 2020, and it was roughly 1 month before we had all the businesses were shut down. And I had more positive comments. How many young professionals do you think we had involved in that launch? It was well over 100.
Oh yeah, I think we did kind of a flash mob towards the end of the dinner, and that I think yielded about 150 people that walked through those doors to show a very powerful impact.
So I had one particular gentleman who works in several communities and goes to several annual banquets, and said that was one of the more impressive displays he saw as part of an annual meeting. And it was just unfortunate. I mean, again, there's a lot of things that were unfortunate as it related to COVID-19 and some of the issues we've had shutting down the community. But since we've been able to start having meetings again, I guess last fall, you all kind of started meeting again in the fall. Do you feel like you're picking back up some of that momentum?
I do think so. I won't lie, I think we definitely lost momentum there in the beginning. And we talk about now, if there is another shutdown, the different things that we would do to provide resources during that lull time when maybe we can't provide any in-person things. But yes, we started to come back in the fall. We did a lot of Zoom meetings and socials and tried to just put out, just different information about how to stay relevant and, keep people informed about what was going on and still be a voice in the community. But it took, it took a hit on us for sure. But I would say, we started to bounce back. Our last couple socials and even business development meetings that we've been having have had a very strong, appearance from our group. And I think that it's going to constantly, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't shut down again, that it will keep growing.
We're certainly not going to win about that. So tell us a little bit about some of the activities that the group does. What are some of the hype activities that can happen, and how can people get involved in that?
Yeah, I would say our main type of activity is definitely socials. We just want to get our young people together to interact with each other. When I came here in 2011, I knew absolutely nobody besides my coworkers. They only wanted to hang out with me so often, so you got to branch out and find new friends. Yeah. So it was my go-to place to get a network of friends, as well as, I am in sales. I'm a wedding planner. I needed new clients in the area. And so those socials provide you with a non-formal setting to meet new people, maybe exchange a business card or two, and just find out what can connect you to other people. The other side of things is definitely business development. We are hoping to take people, as we said, at that K-State graduate level to the workforce. And what does that middle ground look like? And once they are in that workforce, what are some things that we can do to help you get to maybe management level, CEO level, owning your own business? Manhattan is a ton of small businesses. And so there are a good chunk of people that maybe don't have this huge network of employees or employers to kind of connect with, where those small businesses now can connect with other small business owners and kind of get to know them, and again, use that to network them. We're doing small things such as, resume, dinner etiquette. We even did a segment on planting flowers, so it's a wide range of personal and professional development. And I would say that the last thing that we really want to do is be involved in our community. And so we want to give back to our community. And so there's a whole part of our organization that branch is just based on philanthropy and giving back to the community. And we call that Love MHK, because we all love the community that we live in and want to better it.
And just for somebody that might be becoming familiar with hype, you call the different elements of your program pillars? We
do, yes. We have 5 pillars. This is the part I probably should have wrote down. So we have our play, which is our socials. Definitely our Hooray Thursdays are a very popular one. We also just got done with Aggieville Olympics. That was super fun and had a great turnout. Prior champion right here. And then we have Develop. That's really our business development. That's the people that are doing what we would call like our lunch and learns. From that, we also have our Engage team. That is the people that are going to engage the K-State student, engage our military community, both the active duty, the people that are on reserve, as well as just their trailing wives that, and spouses that want to get involved in a community, whether they're going to be here for a month or the next 3 years. We want to let them feel like they're connected. And then we have our Connect pillar. That is basically Very similar to our Develop, but just in a different way where it's more just fun connection. We just did a very fun speed networking event, which is very similar to what you would think of as speed dating, where you went table to table and just got to know people in a setting that was very informal. And then, like I said, we have our Love MHK, which is our give back pillar.
Very active. So obviously someone can get involved in any or all of those pillars.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can just come to the events and be a presence, or you can be on one of the pillar committees. And then we even have, roles such as chairs of each committee. And then we also have a marketing team. And so if there's people that want to be just involved in sharing all of their knowledge with marketing, there's also a potential for that.
How do you feel that hype factors into the Chamber's talent and attraction strategy? What part do they play in that?
I think a big part of it. When I moved here, my husband was small town USA, definitely wanted to stay in the town of 250 people. I had to convince him that moving to a bigger city, although Manhattan isn't large by any means, but moving to a bigger city was going to be a good fit for our family. And so we definitely did a ton of research to figure out what was here, what was going to be here once we started a family, all of those things. And so that was something that I did in my 20s, and so getting them when they're young, right out of college, or maybe they've just moved here for a job and they're not sure if that job is going to keep them here, finding ways to connect to your community outside of your job is definitely very important. And so we are hopefully giving them that facet that allows them to grow in their job, but also grow in their community and make new friends and really find that sense of belonging here.
And as we've done the research, the connection is the important piece, right? If a business recruits or is able to retain a student to go to work for them, getting them connected is generally what is perceived as being able to keep them in the community as opposed to leaving, which is why since we've done the relaunch, we've had a number of businesses step up to sponsor, and so some of our largest businesses are sponsoring the Hype group now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that talent retention isn't just us going out there and reaching out to the people that would be considered our young professionals, which, by the way, we don't ID at the door, but it is about the businesses have to see the need to allow their employees to be a part of this organization. And so allowing them to go to a lunch and learn, to not only hopefully learn something that's going to better them in their professional, but allow them to connect with others that, again, will make them excited to want to be here and stay here. So I think it's twofolds that we need just the general public and those young professionals to want to engage with us, but we need those employers to definitely make it apparent that this is an important factor in order for you to sustain here. And
so as part of the board's commitment, the Chamber Board's commitment to Hype, they put the chair of Hype on the board. Mm-hmm. So that position will have a permanent spot on the board of directors. So you were the first chair to serve on the board. Talk about that connection and how have you found that experience to be?
Yeah, not intimidating at all.
Other than having a great director, right?
Yes, yeah, that definitely helps. Absolutely. No, I would say the first thing, again, I came here, what is that now, 10 years ago, and I still don't know everything about the community. And so my biggest thing that I have enjoyed being on the board is just getting to know people in the community, getting to know about other organizations in the community. But the great thing is that it gives us that sense that we do have a voice. When I first started with the Young Professionals Group, we didn't have as much of a voice. And I would say that we, maybe we're just kind of seen as a group of individuals that got together for socials, but we were much more than that. And so allowing us to have that spot on the board and give us that voice, just we can, if I know that there's something that either the pillar chairs want or the young professionals as a whole, something's mentioned to me at some of our events, I can go back to the board and say, hey, these are some things that people are talking about. We need to potentially look into that. And before it was probably an email that I was sending. Now I can stand in front of all of those people and actually, put my voice out there and hopefully speak for, all of us young professionals.
That's great. You mentioned earlier Dina Huff on our staff, who you worked with early on, or not even early on, just as recently as a couple years ago, kind of on your own, the two of you. But you all recognized Dina last year at the annual meeting. So talk about her contribution to this program over the years, and then that transition now to the new person.
Yeah, absolutely. So the staff liaison, again, being Dina to start with my time here, is a huge asset. They obviously know what's going on in the community. They help us, in getting that connection with different business owners. Dina has played a huge role in getting this organization going and keeping it going throughout. Even now, as she's, somewhat stepped down, she's still very much, I'm pretty sure I email her daily, maybe weekly, but we definitely communicate about the different events, what has worked in the past, what hasn't, what has been a good budget, what isn't. And so she's definitely been that resource for us and just has a ton of knowledge about all the different things that the community has. And so it's been a great time working with her for sure.
And now transitioning to Amber.
Amber brings a whole, she brings the spunk. Love her to death. And she is high energy and very passionate. Like she chairs our engaged team or engaged pillar at this time because of her position with also the talent attraction. And so she's constantly out there at job fairs. She's constantly talking to businesses. She will talk to anybody and make a friend with anyone, which is a great person to have in that role, and she's stepped up and done amazing things both on our marketing side of things as well as just getting people involved and keeping it going. I have a very busy schedule and definitely work within seasons for my schedule, and so I can, with both her and Dina, I've been able to say, hey, I have too much on my plate, do you mind sending out this or that? And they drop what they're doing. Sorry, Jason, not getting your work done, but they drop what they're doing and help me out when I need it, which is great.
Yeah, I've discovered a long time ago, I'm usually into the list. And that anyway.
So
tell
true.
us, you can go on the website. What's the Hype website?
Yes, hypemhk.com. They can go to the website. They can find out about all the different events. They can also find out about the different pillars and what that looks like. They can connect with us if they want to be on a pillar. Definitely take a look at our social pages. Kara with the Chamber is also doing amazing things with that. And so we definitely have a better presence on Facebook and Instagram. I think we're working on some of those other facets that are out there that I'm too old for, but definitely check into all of our social pages to keep up to date. If you're not on the email strand of all the different updates that we send out, then definitely, get with us on that. And if you're an employer listening to this, talk to your young professionals, get them involved.
Awesome. Tara, thanks for leading this program. I know you've been engaged a long time. It takes a lot of your time, and we appreciate you doing that. And thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The ThinkMHK podcast is brought to you by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. Don't forget to subscribe and like the ThinkMHK podcast on your preferred podcast provider, and you will never risk missing an episode. If you enjoyed our show, please give us a 5-star rating and leave a review. To find out more about today's topic or other chamber activities, please go to manhattan.org. And now back to today's show. Welcome back to the ThinkMHK podcast. My co-host for this segment is Charla Meisenheimer. Hey, Charla.
Hey, Jason. I'm happy to introduce to you the pie lady, Tiffany Oppelt, better known as the owner of Therapie. Tiffany, share with us a little bit about how Therapie came to be.
I actually started baking for stress relief. So it was my form of therapy or Therapie. I was working at Creamer Dining Center as a training and development manager. I have a background in hospitality and food service management. And it was just my side gig. My grandma, her name was Thera Fern, also a reason that the business is named Therapie, taught me how to make pie as a kid, and her health was declining. She was fighting Alzheimer's. And we were kind of dealing with that stress and just other stresses of life. And I started baking pies and trying to perfect her recipe before it was lost completely. So I started with Grandma's apple pie, which is my personal favorite and one that I would always recommend. Started baking for myself and just wanting to really master it before that memory was totally gone. And then people were interested in it, and I was looking around, and I was hardcore fangirling over lots of pie shops all over the nation, and realized that Manhattan didn't have a good selection of pie, and that was something that I thought was missing. So I started putting my plan to action and started working on my business plan of how I could bring pie to Manhattan. And it started out as Pies by Tiffany, and then deja vu while doing dishes of Therapie is the official naming of it. And it was licensed we became established as Therapie in October of 2019.
Wow, what a great story. Yeah. She sounds like an amazing woman.
She was a battle axe, yes. So she was hard to love in terms of she did not show love very well. She was not one to really give you a hug and tell you she loved you, but she was quick to make you the best homemade food, and especially pie was really great. Her fried chicken was amazing.
Cast iron skillet, I'm sure.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. You heard. I've just recently realized that the smell of bacon or sausage cooking is the smell I relate to her house. Never put two and two together until recently. But yeah, that's how she showed love, was through food, and it's something that drew me to the hospitality field, was just the connections that you can make to people and their souls through food.
That's awesome. So now you stepped out there big and bold,
Yep.
right, to start your business. So I heard that there was a little bit of persuasion that may have needed to happen with the Mr. Pie. How did that conversation go?
It went many times over and over again. So Mr. Pie is not actually an official part of the business. I am 100% owner. However, it dictates our lives. So he was convinced to sell our home and move, because when I was looking at different avenues that we could go, we were looking at storefronts. We looked at a location in Wamego and several here in Manhattan. I was looking at what was fiscally responsible for me and what was realistic, and what came to be is that I could, with very careful working with the city and working with the Department of Agriculture, I could build a licensed home bakery. So we actually looked at about 12 different properties and looking for the right spot, and we custom built our kitchen that's strictly for pie. So no personal cooking is out of it. It's in the basement of our home, and it's licensed with the food establishment and food processor license, so I can bake to sell directly to customers, and I can bake to sell to restaurants or coffee shops around town. We actually are in Brothers Coffee now, more recently, so you can go there anytime and find pies by the slice or mini or whole on hand all the time to go with a good cup of coffee.
Oh, that's a good place to be.
So obviously, owning your own business is a risky venture. Talk about the thought process you had going into that.
There were a lot of thoughts, and I am a risk-averse person, so it was a challenging thing to really jump into, and it took me a while to get there. I did believe that I had the confidence in my product and in my abilities to manage a business. I've had a lot of background in management of businesses, never ownership, obviously. But I believe that my hospitality skills and the product that I had and some of the resources that were available would help me to be successful in it. I did picture it more of a slow progression versus what we went into, but we got our official licensing from KDA the month before the pandemic started, or like March of 2020. So that caused a lot of changes in my life, including my other job that I had going, and the need to have more of an online presence. And so there were a lot of shifts then, but there's always high risks in everything, but this one was one I felt like I could take on.
Now, being a carry-out business primarily, I guess, almost 100% of course at that time, how did the pandemic impact your business?
So it really was like my side gig at the time. I was putting more focus in my other job, and it was really just pick up, at the doorstep, or I would bring it out to vehicles, but we didn't actually have a website until March of 2020, right as I got licensed and was like, I don't know what's happening. I hear that things are coming. I decided it would be wise of me to go ahead and build that website and up my social media presence. So we shifted to online ordering at that time and offered delivery and carry out and contactless delivery, where I would just drop it on the porch and never see anyone. So that was something that was new for us, and a bit of a shift and an adjustment, because delivery hadn't been part of my plan for quite a while, and it also became my full-time focus. So I was at that time furloughed from K-State, and I went back with them to help batten down the hatches, basically. But it was very quickly apparent that there was a a craving for good pie in Manhattan, and that we were meeting a need. So I was pulling back there and putting a lot more hours into Therapie.
So we always like to get the backstory of the individual behind the business. Talk about how you ended up in Manhattan.
So I call Southeast Kansas home. Parsons is where my family farm is that we bought in 8th grade. I came to K-State for college, and I majored in hospitality management. I started working with Longhorn Steakhouse, and I asked to be moved as far away from Kansas as possible. So I went to Columbia, South Carolina, and lived there for 2 years and really enjoyed it, and was working my way through different parts of training for management, and ended up moving back to Kansas City and was there for about 9 months when my director said, we'd like to consider you for a managing partner. And at the time I was 23 years old and was going to be one of the youngest managing partners in all of Darden, and that sounded really cool and exciting. And I asked where we were headed, and she said Manhattan, Kansas. And to be honest, at the time, I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I loved being here as a college student, but as a single 23-year-old woman, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. But I came back and was working with Longhorn for about a year and a half, and then found the position at K-State. And during that time, I met my husband now, and neither of us thought we would be in Manhattan long term, and now we both don't plan on leaving. This is home. We have a 5-year-old now, and have just really fell in love with this community and the area, and we're here.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's a story we love to hear. We love when people come home and then decide to stay. And so we're glad that you did that. What makes Manhattan a good place for entrepreneurs?
I think it's two parts. First is just the community, the established community that's here is so supportive of new ideas and new concepts and small businesses. And I think the pandemic was really supportive of, or showed that, the focus on supporting small and supporting local. I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that had gotten started, I know it wasn't the story for everyone, but there were a lot of people who were truly supported by our community. So I think there's that passion and love by the community who's always here. And then I think there's also the benefit of we have this rotating audience of new clientele when we have military families come in, or when we have our students at K-State come in and their families, or Manhattan Christian College. I think there's a lot of different rotating people who come in maybe for only 2 to 4 years at a time that also help the new startup businesses get established and start to grow.
When did you join the chamber, and what made you decide to take that leap of faith?
Well, I officially joined in March of 21. I had planned on doing it from the second that I established myself as a business, but as a startup and an entrepreneur, and just anybody who has to manage money, you have to very carefully consider where every dollar is spent. And during the pandemic, during 2020, I decided that it wasn't the best use of my resources. I don't know if that was a correct assumption or not, but that is the choice that I made. But then in March of 21, I was starting to feel hopeful that maybe we were moving out of this thing, and I went to school for hospitality management, so we were taught a lot about what our local chambers do for community members and businesses, and I knew that the value and the benefit was there just from a networking perspective and getting to know more people in town and be part of something larger. So that is when I made the choice to do it.
What is the biggest satisfaction that you get from owning Therapie?
I have a lot of them, but
Nothing wrong with that.
The biggest one is that I am insanely honored to be able to be part of the creation of memories. So my pies are taken to the birth of babies, the funerals of loved ones, the end-of-life treatment, care for people in town, anniversaries, I'm sorry presents, thank you presents. They are just weddings. There's always a need for pie, whether you're eating it by yourself or sharing it with other people. And when you're doing it, it's creating a feeling that is also connecting to a memory. So that's that therapy side of things. When I get to hear the stories of how that happened or how that was shared, that is best gift for me.
So you were recently nominated for the Entrepreneurial Spirit Award from the Chamber Awards Luncheon. Talk about what your reaction was to finding out you were nominated for that.
I was shocked, excited and shocked. I guess partially I was shocked because I have never used the word entrepreneur to describe myself. If we're looking at the dictionary or the Google, that is 100% what I am and what I'm doing, but it's never something that I've really associated with myself. However, I was also extremely honored to be in the group of people, the list of names to be nominated, and that it was even thought of by anyone to make that nomination. So I was extremely honored and humbled, but also a little surprised.
Well, you are an entrepreneur.
I
and
am.
And we're very pleased to have you as part of our organization. What advice do you have for individuals who are thinking about taking the step to start or purchase a business?
I would say a few things. One would be to do your research, as much research and homework as possible. Spend the time asking questions and pounding the pavement and putting yourself in front of maybe people that you don't know, just so that you can ask for the resources that you don't know that are even out there. That was the biggest piece for me, was the research and homework side of thing, and just asking questions, surrounding yourself with people who think differently than you, which Manhattan is great for that. There's a lot of different people in our town who are willing to sit down and bounce questions back and forth and help you through those what ifs. And the more you are making the time for those conversations, the more you find out what's available to you. Because really, when you're doing a startup, you are every department. And so maybe you aren't that great at website creation, or maybe you aren't great at marketing, or maybe you are not an accountant. And so considering yourself from every single role in your organization, if that's how your organization is structured, I would say that there needs to be a lot of soul searching on what of those skills can you do, and what do you need help with, and where can you find that help?
Great advice. Have there been any resources that you found particularly helpful that might be good for people to know about?
Yes. So I am constantly finding about resources that I wish I had known about before. But one, I used the Small Business Development Center Liaison, Lori, that was available here at the Chamber. She's someone that I talked back and forth with a lot. She helped me with the start of my business plan, and she's helped me with the check-in since then. And I honestly could have met with her many, many more times, and that was a really valuable resource because she asked questions that I hadn't gotten to yet. I was not great at accounting in college, so I knew that I'm good with numbers, but I knew that wasn't going to be my greatest source of time spent, so I needed an expert. So I use Tiffany Cutting at Varney and Associates, and that has been extremely helpful. And then those were probably the two that I really utilized the most. And then I asked questions at the Chamber, and I'm pretty sure I've emailed you a couple of times. So just different community members, but those were the two biggest ones that
and
that
of course the SBDC is a great resource, and one that is in Manhattan in part because of the sponsorship from the Chamber, and so I'm glad you're able to utilize them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses in Manhattan, actually in the region today, who started at SBDC, so thank you for that plug, because we think it's a good program and good for entrepreneurs. All right. So, Tiffany, now we come to the fun part, and it is our rapid fire questions.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Something people often find surprising about you.
I spent a semester in college studying culinary arts in Florence, Italy, and I planned the trip myself and went to 7 different countries while I was there.
I want to be a part of that program.
It was really awesome.
Yeah. What are you currently reading, or what was a favorite book?
My very favorite book in the whole world, and if you're a foodie, you should 100% read it, is The School of Essential Ingredients by Erica Bauermeister. There's another sequel to it that's The Art of Mixing, and you'll understand a little bit more about my business if you read it. There's a lot of tie-ins there. I'm currently reading a mystery about a husband who disappears, and I don't know what happens yet, so don't tell Mr. Pie Lady.
Yeah, be our secret. What is your guilty pleasure?
Eating dessert in bed. Yeah, almost always pie, but sometimes it's not.
My kids would be very upset right now because I I've got onto them anytime they ate in bed.
Well, it's usually after my son is in bed. He has no clue that it happens, so it's
And
a
it is
secret.
her guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Yeah, so don't tell them.
All right.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas. I absolutely love just being able to be together and just the love people show through their actions and cooking together and gift giving.
What is something you would like to try but haven't had the opportunity?
Either or both. Ballroom dancing or stand-up comedy. I would love to try like an open mic night of stand-up comedy. I think it would be terrifying. But so that or ballroom dancing because I've never tried it.
What advice would you give the 19-year-old you?
Stop planning your life because it's not going to go the way you plan, but it's still going to be messy and beautiful and just fine.
Sounds good. What 3 words describe living in Manhattan?
I would say Manhattan is friendly. It's a place that feels like home, and there's a very strong sense of community.
What TV sitcom family would you want to be a part of?
Golden Girls.
Oh, yeah, right.
I want to be related to Betty White.
Well, just think about all the pie they ate in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, biggest lesson the pandemic taught you?
One is how much community support there is in Manhattan, and 2, how polarized the beliefs of everyone in this nation can be.
Favorite meal?
Anything that's authentic Italian, starting with bread dipped in olive oil and seasoning salt and ending with tiramisu.
So we should all go for Italian. I'm ready. Ready for that.
Totally ready for that.
Tiffany, thank you for being with us on the ThinkMHK podcast today. We appreciate it, and good luck with your business going forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ThinkMHK, a podcast produced by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. If you enjoyed the ThinkMHK podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and share it out on your social media channels. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce.